So bab 8 talks about DEB, Dasar Ekonomi Baru, and DPN, Dasar Pembangunan Negara. It's Dasar Pembangunan Nasional. So it first talks about DEB, and DEB was released, or you can say started under the first Malaysia plan, or under the second, third, fourth, and fifth Malaysia plan, and it is the first long-term plan, RRJP1, Rangka Rancangan Jangka Panjang Pertama, and it is made. You can say it is made by MAPEN. So MAPEN, or Majlis Perundingan Negara, was made to have this line, this set of guides, what we call them, garis panduan is like have these points. I forgot what they're called. Have these guidelines. They're called guidelines. They have this guide. MAPEN is made to have these guidelines to promote kerjasama antara kaum and integrasi nasional, so we can have a national identity between our people. So like MAPEN is made out of multiple layers of people, like people from many races, and their function is to set a guideline for us to become more united, for us to work together more, for us to be more on the same level. So after some discussion by MAPEN, they created DEB, and DEB was created by professionals. They're not just random people. They're created by professionals like Dr. Rai Saniman and Dr. Jas Falan. Sorry, Dr. Chakra Parkinson. So the intentions of DEB are based on a double-edged sword, as they call it, sifat serampang dua mata. I don't think it's more of a double-edged sword. I think it's more of a kill two birds with one stone thing. But this is very important. So the matlamat of DEB is, number one, to membasmi kemiskinan dengan menambahkan pendapatan dan memperbanyak peluang pekerjaan kepada rakyat tanpa mengira kaum. So what this means is, you want to destroy poverty, you want to get rid of poverty, or at least decrease the poverty rate, make people less poor, and you do that by giving people more jobs so that they can make money from themselves. And then you also want to rearrange the government. You want to rearrange how our community is structured. What that means is, what it means by menyusun semula masyarakat, arranging the structure of our community, is like, as we mentioned in the last few chapters, during British rule, our community is divided. We are all in our own little bubbles, so it causes us to be more separated. So we want to get rid of it, menghapuskan pengenalan kaum mengikut fungsi ekonomi. We want to get rid of the stigma that Chinese people work in cities, Malay people only know how to farm, and so on. And the issues that DEB is trying to tackle, the socio-economic issues that DEB is trying to tackle, is the gap, the socio-economic gap between, number one, bumi and non-bumi, number two, pantai timur and pantai barat, number three, masyarakat desa dengan bandar, and number four, antara negeri. Bumi and non-bumi, East Coast, West Coast, number three, desa and bandar, and number four, antara negeri. Oops. So what are the things that they did through DEB? The first thing that they did through DEB is increase the standard, meningkatkan taraf hidup rakyat, increase the living standards of people, and they focus on both bandar and luar bandar. For luar bandar, it's like mostly poor people, farmers, fishermen, and so on. And the way they try and help those is with having this gerakan koperasi. And they also did a few programs like opening more land, giving equipment to farmers, giving advice on certain things, and then giving subsidies with fertilizer, kemudahan kredit, so it's like borrowing stuff, and also basically try and develop the farmers' economy, try and develop their infrastructure, like improve their lives lah. All of this basically means help with their job and improve their lives. And then for people in the city, what they did was they created more jobs. They they developed the industry so that they can create more jobs so that more people can work, and that also includes and that also includes poor people. So like you want to in the city you want to create more jobs so that the people who are in the city that are poor because they have no jobs and the prices of houses are too high will have a source of income lah. So again, you want to also focus on cities because there are also poor people in cities. Not all people are poor. Not all people in the city are able to live comfortably. Some of them are poor, and the government knows that. So what they did is they tried and make it easy to get jobs, and they also improve like the infrastructure like electricity, roads, getting free education and so on. And then buku hijau. So buku hijau, I think it got mentioned again. I mean, I know. I don't think it did. But I'm gonna focus on this a bit because I got this question wrong during the trial exam. So not trial exam, the online exams. So what is the matlamat of buku hijau? It is to increase the earnings of people, menambahkan pendapatan rakyat dan pengeluaran bahan makanan. So you want to increase, number one, the earnings of people, the income, and number two, you want to increase the amount of food exported, so that it's enough for the country. And it focuses on using earth as efficient as possible. And there are a few like creative methods that they use to help with this. They have short-term planting. They have group perkebunan berkelompok, so it's like group planting, and then a good not promotion, a good selling of goods. I can say pemasaran yang baik means a good way of selling the goods, so it's like easier to sell to other people, and also some other projects. And then there are also some like some agencies which are there to help develop the economy, like LPP, LKIM, LPN, and Vista. So LKIM is for fishers, to increase the living standard of fishermen. LPP is to help small farmers in corporations. LPN is to control the price of paddy and rice, and also to make the price of control the price of paddy and rice, and it got changed to Bernas, the name. And Risda is for getah. Other than that, they also did Felda. Felda got mentioned a few times already, so you should know Felda by now. And basically, what Felda is for is number one, it is a way for us to generate more income through kelapa sawit and ladang getah. And number two, it is a way for poor people to get jobs. So these poor people who are outside the city, they go to Felda so that they have a better life, and they are given like the land to plant their crops. Kelapa sawit is palm oil, I think it was coconut palm. Getah is rubber, and also they have a place to live. And then these like Felda areas also have like schools, they have clinics, and then they have transportation. So basically, it's like a small town, and that helps with their lives. And Felda is also there to, and then since Felda is a government agency, it works together with state agencies to open more land. So in Sabah, Felda worked together with Yayasan Sabah to open Felda Wilayah Sahabat and Felda Umas, while Felda worked with Sarawak to form Salkra for kelapa sawit. So Felda isn't only just for Bumis, even though Felda is mostly for Bumis. There's also Feldas for Chinese and Indians, like Felda Lurabilut, Felda Karatong, and Felda Sendayan in Pahang and Negeri Sembilan. Next is pembangunan wilayah. So other than opening land for, because Felda is to open land for like plantation, not really plantation like crop plantation. It's more like kelapa sawit and getah. These companies, I don't know what lembaga means in English. These are for this land of opening is it's similar to Felda lah. Yeah. It's similar to Felda, but these are more towards localized, I guess you can say. So maybe you can ignore what I said now, just now. Felda and these are almost the same, but Felda is federal. Felda is the national government yang do. This one is the state yang do. There's Kejora, Ketengah, Dara, and Kesedar. And there's also UDA, which is Urban Development Authority, and they are for they are berperanan dalam sektor pembangunan industri dan pembangunan Bandar Baharu. So they basically they do almost the same thing. Like these ones are for getah and kelapa sawit. UDA is more for opening cities, like creating more cities, more industrial sites. And they have a few They have a few cities like Bandar Baru UDA and Bandar Tun Hussein on. Next is pemilikan modal saham. So Bumiputras aren't able to invest in stocks, I guess you can say. So they aren't able to invest in shares. So because of this, they aren't able to have the same ways of getting money as other races, because the other races are in cities, so it's easy for them to invest. So to counter this, to help with this, what they did is they created menambahkan pemilikan modal saham Bumiputera dalam sektor korporat. So they created MBBB through the creation of PNB. So PNB, I'm not so sure on MBBB and PNB, but I do know that ASN and ASB are basically like these share companies, I guess you can say. Like they help Bumis invest in private companies. I don't know if it's private or public, but basically these two are only for Bumiputera to invest, so that there is an easier way for the Bumis to it is easier for Bumis to invest through ASN and ASB, because these are for Bumis only. And then these non-Bumis, like Chinese, they are also able to invest through ASM, Amanah Saham Malaysia. So even though Bumis are given like extra benefits, non-Bumis still have the rights to invest. Next is IKS. So IKS stands for Industri Kecil dan Sederhana, and IKS is basically it basically means these shops, these small businesses that don't have enough work power. Like maybe something like McDonald's is not IKS because it's a food chain that's all over the world, but something like Ramly Burger, if you have heard of Ramly Burgers, they are actually an IKS back then, I think. And then in the end they succeeded. Like Ramly started as like a small thing, but now you see them everywhere. So that is a proof of IKS succeeding. It's also Best Farm Core and Nurul Food Industry and Faiza Marketing. But the one that I'm more familiar with is Ramly lah. So yeah. IKS means businesses that do not have enough people. They are small businesses, and the government is trying to help develop these IKSs. The government is trying to help like promote these IKS, so that more people can have their own business and hopefully they can succeed. So because of this, there are a lot of like businessmen. Next is pendidikan tenaga. No, this is the last one. Pendidikan tenaga kerja mahir. What this means is the government wants us to have more of a hands-on education. Like for us, we write in the books, but tenaga kerja mahir means actually doing experiments, actually doing these things. So it's like for mechanics, for scientists, these are tenaga kerja mahir. And one way the government tried to implement this is by introducing Kemahiran Hidup. If you don't know what Kemahiran Hidup is, nowadays it's called RBT, but back then it was KH. And then there's also like vocational schools other than academic schools, which prioritize these hands-on activities. And there's also technique and vocational like higher educations like Maktab Perguruan Teknik UTM and UITM. And then khusus kemahiran ditawarkan dalam berbagai bidang. So these courses are comprised of multiple things. So again, tenaga kerja mahir means like doing more hands-on activities. So there's like a lot of what they call again courses you can take, comprising of different types of subjects, categories, I guess you can say. So because of this, these people who maybe are not as talented in academics have an easier way of getting a job, and they can live comfortably. So next is DPN. So after DEB ended, DPN started, and DPN was basically the continuation of DEB. It just continues on DPN, and it is launched by Tun Dr. Mahathir. So it is the continuation of DEB, and since DEB is the first long-term Malaysia plan, DPN is the second long-term Malaysia plan, and it comprises of 6, 7, 8, 9 Rancangan Malaysia ke-6, ke-7, ke-8 dan ke-9. It is based on Wawasan 2020, and the intention, the matlamat of DPN is similar to DB, where it is to achieve equality lah. It says that to destroy kemiskinan and to change the social structure. This one is similarly to try and even out the social structure among everyone through distribution of wealth. And it says here, makna ini dapat dicapai melalui pembangunan seimbang antara negeri dan antara bandar dengan luar bandar melalui beberapa aspek. So what this means is you want to develop both the countryside and also the cities. Sorry, it's not 6, 7, 8, 9, it's only 6 and 7. So DEB is 20 years, DPN is 10 years only. DPN's objective is to have a community that is together, and DPN tengah ke arah membolehkan Malaysia mencapai taraf negara yang maju. So DPN is like a stepping stone for Malaysia to be an advanced country, because right now we're a developing country, not advanced yet. So DPN is supposed to be like that one extra thing we can do to become more advanced. DPN took had a few strategies. Like there are a few ways that DPN was done. So for example, there's economy, there's social, and kemudahan fizikal dan alam sekitar. So for economy, you want to involve your people more in private sector. You also want to do replanting. You want to develop your science and technology so it becomes more advanced, and you also want to make more Bumis invest. You already make people invest in DB, but you want to make more people invest in DPN. For social, so firstly, you want to give incentives give incentives serta kemudahan. So it was loud. Okay. So firstly, you want to give incentives serta kemudahan pendidikan untuk kemajuan masyarakat miskin tanpa mengira kaum. So you want to make it easier for poor people to have their education, and regardless of race, whether it's Bumi or non-Bumi. And you also want like a very good trading community, and you want your Bumis to get more involved in industries, and you want your people to be more disciplined and progressive, so that you have the right mindset to develop your country. And then kemudahan fizikal dan alam sekitar. You want to improve the infrastructure like toilets, hospitals, and so on. But you also want to make sure that you develop stuff without hurting the ecosystem too much. So what are the things that they did during DPN? Firstly, they tried to, again, get rid of poverty. So they gave subsidies to fishermen and paddy planters. And you want to help them make their business better. Like you want to help them be more efficient in getting income. Like increase their total exporting, their productivity lah, basically. So like you want them to become, you want them to sell more fish. That's the easy way to say it. And then this golongan belia means young people. They are give like training in Pusat Latihan Kemahiran Gatmara and ILP, so that they can get a job that is of high income. Next is to again rearrange the community, penyusunan semula masyarakat. So it first started with MPBB, and then next is next is and you want to, and the what they want is they want to increase tenaga kerja means worker energy, like make more people work lah, and then they want more bumis to participate in modern sectors like processing and manufacturing and services. So in other words, you want them to work in factories more, because factories are a way to get jobs. Next is latihan dalam bidang pengurusan harta dan etika perniagaan diberikan oleh agensi kerajaan. So excuse me. Latihan dalam bidang pengurusan harta. The government will give training in how to manage your current assets, like because some people like to waste, they aren't so good at managing their own stuff, so the government will give them ways to manage their own items, and also to teach them etiquette on starting a business. They also give contracts to bumi owners, and also they didn't leave non-bumis behind lah. And then ada khusus diberikan pada penyataan Bumi Putra dalam IKS. They emphasize more on IKS. They hope that more bumis will get involved with IKS, and then bumis and non-bumis are both should help with developing the making bumi businesses more successful. And you want to expose the bumis to more modern technology because they weren't able to use modern technology back then, and you want to do this so that they can catch up to the current standards of businesses. Next is penyusunan semula modal saham. So you want to change the structure of investments again. So bahagian saham kaum bumi dapat ditingkatkan selaras dengan nama asal DEB. There isn't really much to say here. Again, it's about private investors, I guess you can say. And again, they want bumis to invest more in these private sectors. So a few examples would be Mara, Pernas, and Piken. Non-bumis are also given an opportunity to invest, of course. But yeah, these are for private businesses. Next is pembangunan wilayah. So you want to open more land. You want to develop more soil so that it's easier to develop the economy. And you also want like other states to catch up to other states because some states are less developed than others. So a few things that they did was Mardi, and then they also use smart planting, konsep pertanian pintar, and then the penyebaran industri terpilih. And then this topic talks about what did DEB and DPN successfully do, like what are their achievements. So social wise, DEB and DPN were able to reduce the poverty rate from 49.3% to 17.1% in 1990. So in 20 years, DEB was able to reduce the poverty rate by 42%. And then in 10 years, they reduced it by another 10% to 7.2%. It was actually lower, but because of the Asian financial crisis, it went up again. But that doesn't matter. Next is increase the quality of life. So what that means is people have a more comfortable life, especially when it comes to hospitals, because back then hospitals weren't as as advanced. But nowadays, Malaysia has a pretty good health system, other than relatively speaking now. So that's a good sign. Like DEB and DPN were able to make life easier for us. They also caused the appearance of the middle class. Like back then, there was like low class and high class. So high class is like very successful businessmen, and low class is like farmers and work and slaves and so on. But now there's a middle class where people are working, they are not rich, but they're also comfortably living. Like they aren't poor, but they aren't rich. So these are called middle classes. So for example, there's Jurutera and contractors, I think. I bet. There's also dentists, architects, and this guy, lecturer. So these people are not rich, but they're also not poor. They are able to live a comfortable life. That is what golongan pertengahan is. And these people are very important because they help. Because number one, they help to contribute to the country in terms of economy and also living standards. Because without these middle class people, you won't be able to go for a dentist appointment. You won't be able to go to the doctor. You won't be able to live in a house because there wouldn't be any houses built and so on. Other than that, there's also this Masyarakat Perdagangan dan Perindustrian Bumiputra. So they remember the MPBB. So after DEB and DPN help people to get into investing, it they came out an MPBB. So this Masyarakat Perdagangan dan Perindustrian is like these Bumiputra who are able to use these like investment routes, and they're able to get into like corporate sector. They're able to get into like banks, businesses, owning land and so on, and yeah. So because of DEB and DPN, these people were able to get they were able to become rich, and because of that, they are able to help others get a job because they are owners of companies, and they create more jobs for other people. So not only they gain benefits, but they also help others gain benefits. So these are a few names: Tan Sri Muhammad Effendi Norwawi, Asman Hashim, Mokhtar Al-Bukhari, and Mustafa Kamal. So yeah. And then I think it's it's not the last one. Pembangunan Pendidikan. So not only did they help with golongan pertengahan, they also help to develop the education system. So I guess like nowadays, because nowadays there are more jobs that require tenaga kerja. So like there are more hands-on jobs. Back then there was no middle ground, there was no middle class, so there weren't that many jobs. But now there are more jobs, so that means there are more courses to take so you can get those jobs. So there are more jobs, so that means you can take more courses to get more jobs. Like if like back then there's only like 5 types of jobs, now there's like 15, 20 plus. That's an example. And that is because these are new jobs. So these new jobs don't have many people working yet. So there is a high demand. So that's why these unis have these courses to help with those jobs, to help train people for those jobs. And those are mostly middle class jobs lah. Next is pengangkutan dan perhubungan. So this one is just basically helping to improve the road system, the transportation system. And then this one is perkembangan wilayah. So because of DEB and DPN, there were a few new cities caused by opening land, such as Felda being able to to turn Segitiga Jengka into a city. Not city lah, I think it's a city. So it used to be called Segitiga Jengka, Felda Segitiga Jengka. But because it was so successful as like a Felda place, it became a city called Bandar Tun Abdul Razak. So yeah, so Segitiga Jengka had a lot of things that you normally see in cities, like post office, schools, banks, hospitals, stadiums even. And because of that, they were able to become a full-size city. So that is for social-wise. For economy-wise, firstly, the technology became more modern. It was mainly led by HiCom. It's mainly led by HiCom, and they have a few projects like phasing chips. There's also metal manufacturing, I think, and then there's also like logi is what again? Like extracting gas from seas, like petroleum. Here also, hilang penebis petroleum to filter up petroleum. Yeah, there's basically a lot of things that are possible because the technology has become more advanced. And again, these jobs, I mean, this industry requires a lot of good tenaga kerja. So yeah, and next is there are more industrial sites, kawasan perindustrian baharu. For example, there is estate, there's also taman teknologi, and this zone for industrian bebas. So for estates, they are more for Is this here? Dibangunkan sebagai bandar terancang yang mengandungi kawasan perumahan, pusat perniagaan dan perindustrian serta pusat rekreasi. So they're more for housing sites, they're more for business sites, or even recreational sites. And then there's also taman teknologi perindustrian. So taman teknologi perindustrian is for menjalankan penyelidikan dan inovasi bagi membangunkan teknologi perindustrian. So what that means is these technological parks are to help with researching on certain things to help develop the current technology that we have. So we can have a more advanced industry. And then zone perindustrian bebas is places that are free of tax, and you want them to have to be free of tax so that investors can come to zone perindustrian bebas to develop their stuff there. These are like trading sites, and these zone perindustrian bebas are used to pull in investors so that they can do their businesses in Malaysia. So examples are like Sime Darby, Axiata, and Proton. So like they are able to do their development here, because if they are given tax, they won't feel like doing it here because it'll cost them more money. But since these businesses are free of tax, they go to these zone perindustrian bebas to do their businesses. Lastly, we have our own national cars. So for example, Proton and Perodua, and then there's also Modernas.